What's up, everybody? I'm Kyle Carlson, and this is the Rollback BMX Podcast, the #1 BMX podcast in the universe, according to me. So I basically spent this past week sick and in bed. I think I'm finally back to life, back in San Diego, and was greeted by the news that I have to move into a new house because of mold. That's fantastic. So it certainly seems like the party just doesn't stop out here. Today's guest is Tony D. Tony D was basically the man behind Haro during the Mira and Nyquist days. After Haro, he had a bunch of random jobs throughout the BMX industry, and he recently signed on to a new gig at USA Cycling, where he is one of the main guys behind the scenes when it comes to the United States of America trying to win gold medals in the Olympics. You know, jock stuff. We talk a bit about the good old days with Dave Mira and Ryan Nyquist, how Tony dealt with his longtime friend Dave Mira leaving Haro and starting Miraco, Tony's eventual departure from Haro and where he went from there, and also his new gig at USA Cycling, where he breaks the news that Team USA is getting their own skate park in San Diego. So sit back, listen up, prepare to get educated. This is the Rollback BMX Podcast with Tony D. All right, Tony, so we're sitting here discussing important, serious business. You have children you have to pick up at school soon because you're a responsible father.
I wouldn't say responsible, but...
You are a father.
Yes.
So when I first met you, it was many moons ago when you were working at Haro.
Was this the Join Team Haro thing?
I met you before that, I think, because I did some stuff for Premium.
Yeah?
But that was one of the first times we really hung out with each other.
I remember you vomited in front of the hotel the night after the celebration party at Join Team Haro in Greenville.
That was after a wrestling match with Dave Mira.
Could have been.
I was underage, and Dave was supplying the booze. Shout out to Dave Mira, wonderful man.
Yes.
But how did you end up working for Haro?
So, as a racer, I kind of went through the ranks, and I wasn't good, but I was good enough to be in like main events or finals, whatever you want to call them.
Were you double A or was it double A?
No, I turned single A, but at that point I was so burned out and whatever. But as an amateur, I was pretty good. Yeah, dude, it's kind of a little ridiculous. But yeah, as an amateur, I was kind of okay, good enough to kind of get recognized by them. And at the time, they had a superstar pro who took me under his wing at the time. And then
who was that?
The guy named Mike King.
Okay.
And he was a racer. And then, you know, long story short is he introduced me to those guys. And then I became a racer for him. And then I turned pro and was just burnt out and then moved to New Zealand for almost 4 years. And then by that point, I'd made a lot of relationships there and all that sort of stuff. And then Brad Lusky, who we both know, he
great guy.
Yeah, he's awesome. He I'd been in contact with him the whole time. He's just a really good friend of mine and a mentor, kind of.
And at the time, Brad was working at Haro.
Yeah,
For those who don't know, Brad is kind of an agent to the stars in BMX, agent to Dennis Anderson, Scotty Kramer.
Dave and Ryan at the time.
Yeah, like anyways. But anyways, back then he worked at Haro.
Yeah, so he was my boss at Haro, and then I was really wanting to come back to America from New Zealand, and then he called me up and said, "Hey, I think we have a job for you." And it was in sales, and to be honest, that lasted like 2.5 months or something, and then he basically saved me and brought me into marketing and sponsorship and stuff, and from there on, it was like 16 years or something.
So when he brought you on to work and brings you into marketing, were Mira and Nyquist already there, or was that something that you played a role in bringing to the table?
No. Shit, I wish I could, right? That would have been kind of a
whose responsibility was that? Who brought them?
That was Brad.
That was Brad Lusky.
Okay. To be totally honest. So Dave was already there for a year. And I'd met Dave one time, and honestly, I remember him walking through, and he was he was Dave Mira, but it was pre-Dave Mira. He was Dave Mira, $50,000 a year Dave Mira.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you know.
Regular man Dave
Mira, but still, you know, but he was still the same dude and stuff like that. And,
yep.
And I'd met him once and did not like him. Like, God, that guy is just a jerk. You know, Brad, like, fire him. Like, no one deserves to be talked to like that.
He's kind of talking down to people?
Yeah,
or what?
I mean, maybe not talking down, but just super like, I'm not going to, like sprockets. Like, I'm running a white sprocket. And I'm like, well, we don't sell white sprockets. You know, like, run the red one or the silver, like, whatever.
You were marketing for us.
Right, you know, and, you know, it was just stupid stuff like that. And then little did I know that really didn't really matter what sprocket, you just, you know. But, you know, so there was me kind of not being so kind of jerkish as well. But then, and then Nyquist came on by way, because we'd lost Todd Lyons to Huffy.
And Todd kind of gave Ryan the sign off, right?
That was it. Yeah. And then so Todd called Lusky and said, "Hey, you need to, you know, hire this guy." So I think sight unseen, Lusky hired him for like $250 a month.
Based on Todd's word.
Word. And then I kind of adopted Ryan. That was like my first real guy, because Dave was already kind of on the team or whatever. And then when Ryan came on, we started traveling together, and then I got a hell of a lot closer to Dave at that point, and
So when you first came in, Dave's making $50,000 a year.
Ish, probably not even. I mean, I think I still have one of his original contracts. I'll look, but it was at that time was like $24,000. It was $2,000 a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he comes in and you come in and he's making like that.
Yeah.
Ryan's making $250 a month. What did they top out at?
I don't know if Ryan would be stoked about. I'll leave off the Ryan part, but Dave, I remember sending Dave monthly checks, not including bonuses or royalties at the time, for $26,000 a month.
Okay.
So if you do your math out there, or 26.5. 26.5 is what they were.
And he'd still make bonuses and whatnot on top of that.
Yeah, on top of that, I think it came to a point where I almost want to say it was 450 was like at a point where it was just like, okay, this is crazy. Like, just stop it, make one payment. Let's not do this on top of this, on top of royalties. Because, I mean, there was a point where we were shipping like 5,000 mirror seats a day out of there. I mean, anything with Dave's name on it was just sold out. It didn't matter.
I remember growing up, my first BMX bike was a back trail.
Yeah.
But I remember going to school and it was just kids had back trails and mirror bikes. Yeah. Even if you wanted to try to ride BMX, or that was just the bike that demographic was buying.
That was it. I mean, Ryan did really well with his too.
So were those guys getting paid off the bikes too, or do you kind of make a flat fee for them?
Well, that I think that's where it came in. Is initially it was just the salary plus bonuses plus royalties, and then X Games grew, and thankfully Haro never did the win match like Schwinn did. Schwinn did win match at the time, and I think that's what kind of pushed them out of business, essentially. Wow. Well, because, I mean, if you win back then, it was
50 G's?
Well, no, this was 25 before Gravity came in and boosted up to 50. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. But at the time, yeah, so Ryan would make his flat salary, and then he'd make some bonuses, and then he'd make his royalties. And honestly, it got to a point where it just got incredibly hard to even control. And then so I think Lusky kind of, with their blessing, tore up the contract and just said, we're going to pay you one flat amount because...
And it's going to be a nice amount.
And it's going to be a nice amount. So, I think that's where Dave kind of topped off at that number. And, Ryan did his numbers, and which were very impressive.
So you were kind of the handler for those guys at a time, right? When shit was crazy, you were kind of the guy. I always wanted to ask you what it was like when you're the guy in charge of these guys and they hate each other.
That was the toughest part. When I came on, everything was awesome, and they roomed a lot together.
And that was before all the bad shit happened,
right?
Yeah,
and everything was awesome. They roomed together, so I usually got my own room at a time. And back then that was helpful.
Unheard of, yeah.
Well, unheard of, but also helpful on the shady part. From town to town and all that sort of stuff. And then the competitiveness just got crazy. And all of a sudden, Dave wanted his own rooms. And the second he said that, it became really weird. And it was honestly kind of the beginning of the end, And I remember one super uncomfortable X Games in San Francisco where those guys were just, arguing. We were driving down the road. Ryan was driving. Dave was in the passenger seat. They were at each other's throats driving down a freeway, and I was in the back seat. And I remember just being, at one point, trying to handle it, and like butting in whenever I could to stop the argument. But on the flip side, I was in the back seat because I was so sad, like genuinely sad. And I'm not that puppy dog dude, but here you have your two dudes that you travel the world with that you just kind of been through hell and back together on almost, it seems like every weekend, and they're at each other's throats, and they're really good friends. And this was, I think, just after the movie, the Miracle Boy and Nyquist movie. Okay. So I think you could kind of see a couple up and downs in that video if you look really deep and you kind of...
Yeah.
But I remember being really bummed at that point. And then kind of from there on, it just... Dave really kind of wanted to do his own thing. And it was tough. And, there was times where we'd kind of go through runs together and Dave would go, okay, Tone, here's what I'm doing. Not necessarily his vert run, more so his park runs. And then Ryan and I were always just really good friends. And so we would do that. I do that with Ryan too. Like, and then I was knowledgeable at that point to know what they were capable of. And like, and kind of what because I can kind of tell what the judges were doing and stuff. So we would talk, not as a coach. I'm not trying to give any credit to myself, but more as a bouncing board is what I'm trying to say.
For sure.
And Dave kind of stopped that process too. Cause he said it one day, was like, oh, well, you're just going to go and tell Ryan my runs. And I'm like, no, dude.
So he was almost getting paranoid to the extent where he like wasn't even trusting you, and you were a guy that had his best interest in mind.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I felt that. I mean, I don't know if it was just him kind of having a high or a low, or if it was truly not trust, because. But then he and I together would go out and cause havoc and be best of friends literally that night.
It was almost
next day.
he would separate the business, but he didn't want to do the business part with you at the event.
Yeah, but then the next weekend it was completely opposite. And he did. And he would like, hey, what did you think of this? And da-da-da. What jersey do you want me to wear? And then I'm just like, whoa, okay, so we're back? Like everything's cool then? You know? And then him and Ryan would go and have fun. And, you know, and even like in San Francisco with that crazy argument, we're out front of Ryan's house. And then they started daring each other, jumping a curb. You know, 180 and just doing rollbacks, like off literally. I mean, what's a curb? 12 inches or 7 inches or something?
Less than 12, yeah.
Yeah, and everything was fine. And the whole rest of the weekend was fine. So it's like, you know, highs and lows, but then it turned out to get messy once the warehouses came in and all that sort of stuff.
And then there was just no communication.
No, and animosity and just...
So when the warehouses came in and they kind of quit communicating, did you have to book them on separate flights and stuff when you were doing that?
I wouldn't do it.
So you'd fly them together and
Absolutely.
whatnot. So they would show up to the airport, this tiny airport in this tiny town, and just not say a word to each other.
Josh Harrington was a part of it. And I mean, at that time, you have to remember, you'd have, Wirch and all these guys would be flying. I mean, I can't remember who else was there. I mean, so Josh, Wirch. Darden was there. Mike Laird was flying a lot then. And so...
Alan Cook probably?
Maybe. I think it was pre-Ryan Gutler. I don't think Gutler was out there yet. But the point is, I think there was enough people to where it dispersed that sort of negative tension, because there were camps, but then you'd have a guy as real as Mike Laird, who I think was so good for that. People don't realize Mike Laird and the glue he was in that whole town, you know, in regards to, because he wouldn't, you know, I can't swear too much.
He wouldn't play sides.
But he would not play sides. He'd be like, F that, Dave, and he would tell Dave exactly how he felt. But then with Ryan, he would go, Ryan, you're being an idiot, or whatever. And I mean, I just have the utmost respect for Laird for
awesome.
that.
I saw him last weekend. Great guy.
How's he doing? Is he still
fantastic.
Hardcore? Still hardcore as hardcore can be?
So hardcore.
How about that thumb injury? Remember his thumb injury?
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's probably a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, it's probably a Mike Laird podcast. Not a me and you discussing Mike Laird's thumb.
Absolutely not.
I remember going back to Greenville the first couple times many moons ago, and it was, I think, after the worst of it. I think Dave was already kind of winding down in his competitive nature. He had his weird comeback that one year, and he did really well at Dew Tour. But I remember there was the couple guys. You had your Josh Harrington, your Mike Laird, a small list, but there were a few guys that would ride both warehouses. Yeah. And they were kind of like the ones that kind of seemed, you know, the ones that kind of just seemed like, fuck all this drama.
Totally. And in that, it's crazy because those were the two that were, or not two, there's 3 or 4 of them, right? Of those bounce back and forth warehouse guys.
Yeah.
But those guys were actually real guys too. They weren't like humping the leg of both Dave and Ryan and they would be talking behind their back.
Oh, hey Dave, I'm going to ride the unit now.
That's
Goodbye.
it. Yeah. That's it. They were as true can be. And I think it was almost like both Ryan and Dave, who I'm not saying they were equally at fault, but I think at times they were at fault.
Yeah.
Or, you know, and
I feel like it was mostly Dave at fault.
Nah, I'm not gonna. Can't kick a good man.
You know it's true. But anyways, no, I love Dave and love Ryan.
But yeah, I think they had both Dave and Ryan's respect. Yeah. Both those guys. You know?
Were you at Haro when Dave left to do Miracle with Jim Ford?
Mm-hmm. That's a whole nother story.
So you were still at Haro at that time?
Yeah, but I was part-time. So Haro was paying me $2,000 a month to still manage those guys because Jim Ford did not want to deal and hire in a new... I'd left and gone to Fox.
You had left your... Okay, gotcha.
Well, actually, I'd left and gone to No Fear and tried this whole motocross route because that's my passion. And I realized that those guys, I still love moto, but those guys at the time were twice as childish, mean motocross guys, as BMX guys, just with a heck of a lot more money.
Yeah.
So Todd Hicks at Fox called me up and said, hey, you know, we have a job here that we want you to do, da-da-da-da. And I'm like, sure. You know, anyway, so I went to Fox full time, and then Jim Ford said, hey, I need help with this. I don't want to manage these guys, you know.
Meaning Dave and Ryan.
Meaning Dave and Ryan, and Josh Harrington was still on at that time. And will you do it? And I'm like, for me, and I'm like, well, yeah, it's easy for me. You know, I still deal with Dave on the Fox side, so it's really easy. And then Ryan is dealing with Split, but I know Mark Sperling really well at the time, who had been the Split guy. And so... yeah, I'll do it. Like, absolutely. It's not a big deal. I mean, I'm going to be staying in the same hotel with those guys anyway. So they really meshed well together.
Not a direct conflict for you with any
it
sort
wasn't.
of, yeah.
And then I got a call from Dave a couple months prior that I don't think a lot of people know about, but I knew this whole Miracle thing was going down a couple months prior. And Dave actually lined up for me to keep my to continue to do my Fox job, but also do the Miracle TM.
Okay.
And to be truthful, I was like, yeah, that sounds good. Like, yeah, let's do it. And then the more I kind of dug into it and realized like maybe it wasn't as honest as I had hoped. And that's not trash talking Jim or Dave, but seeing how there was some sort of vindictiveness going on behind the scenes and who was starting to get involved. And then Trek started getting involved and I was really kind of anti-Trek and some other stuff. I really kind of changed my tune. And I'm like, no, I didn't tell Dave this at all because it's just better not to even argue with Dave, as you well know. But I just kind of thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't think in my head. And my wife at the time was just like, well, money's money. You should take it or whatever. And it just didn't. Well, anyway, long story short is Haro then found out, everyone at the investors at Haro, and then Joe Hawk and Pete Skoda at Haro realized that Dave and both Jim were going to go and do their own thing with Miracle.
So was Jim kind of the guy in charge at Haro at the time?
Jim was the number one guy. He was the president. He has
Joe Hawk's current job.
Yeah, I mean, there's, and I don't, yeah. For your term, I mean,
he's the man in that building. He's the man.
He is the man, but he was also part owner. So I'd almost say he's a little greater than that, but
gotcha.
but yeah. So, so as soon as I found that out, I was like, shoot, this is going to turn messy. And, anyway, so right, as soon as that news hit, Joe Hawk called me up, which he never calls. Like when he calls, he needs a favor or is in a predicament, and we can yell at each other and throw profanities. But at the end of the day, he's a great dude to have margaritas with and chill out. But he called me up and I'm like, holy crap, this is, Joe's calling. And I was in the hospital with my son's birthday. So just over 13 years ago. And he called him and said, hey, we have a situation. I said, I know what it is. And he goes, okay, are you interested? I was like, well, maybe, I guess. Like, what are we talking? Are we talking full-time or part-time? Because remember, it was kind of like on this weird basis. And it's like, no, full-time, we need help. Like, we need to write this, this ship because we're going off, and I'm like, well, and I told him exactly what I was making and what I needed and stuff like that. And you were
still at Fox.
I was still at Fox at the time. And they had just opened up the SoCal sort of portion of Fox, which was
they were
really
up in Morgan Hill before then,
right?
Okay.
Yeah, which is beautiful up there, by the way. And I tried to get the wife to move up there, but that wouldn't go. Hence us being probably divorced now. It was this weird feeling with Fox SoCal. Like it was a couple of NorCal guys there, and they didn't want to be there because they hate SoCal, and I was coming in there every so often, but there was just a few temporary people, and I'm like, I don't want to be a part of that at all. So long story short, I took the Haro gig and I was super stoked about it. And that was the beginning of the end for Dave and I, because he saw that as just, absolute sort of betrayal in his eyes. And if you knew Dave, I think it's safe to say that he was very mafioso, not in way he went out and killed people, not like that, but he was very mafioso by way of the way he handled things and his loyalties and stuff like that. So, to Dave, I'd probably, done him completely wrong.
So when he left to do Miracle, didn't he leave Fox at the same time though? When he went to Alpine Stars, I believe, wasn't that like the exact same time? I don't think he was ever on Miracle and Fox.
I remember having a conversation with Jim Anfuso, and it must have been around that time because I didn't have many conversations with my boss, Jim Anfuso at Fox, who's now with Adidas. But I remember they were paying him $250,000 a year. I can say all this now because it doesn't matter, right?
Oh, yeah, whatever.
For Dave. But yeah, Fox was paying him $250 or $275. I want to say it was $250. And they were having a hard time justifying that amount not because Dave wasn't doing it's not like he was wearing any different shirts or something like that. It was more so that signature train started going downhill, right? And Haro started experiencing it too. And that was kind of part of the thing where, Dave's salary at Haro started going down because that train had left the station.
You can only pay somebody based on what you're making.
Totally. And that was it. So anyway, long story short is no, I think you're right. I think everything got changed right around that time. I think you're right.
But you and Dave patched things up.
Yeah, we did. I mean, it'd been 2 or 3 years, man, and it's when he got really sick, meningitis.
Yeah.
then I reached out to his wife. I'm like, okay, this is stupid. You know, like there's a chance he can die. Like, so I reached out to his wife and she was super psyched. And then at that point, Dave and I, you know, had kind of got along. You know, before that, we'd met up at a couple of tours and did the fake stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like,
course.
And bought each other a beer. And
we've all done it.
Yeah. The I love you mans. And then after that, you don't talk.
We're going to hang out more. And then
totally.
you see him at the next contest.
He didn't reply to my text. And then he hit me up with a text 2 months later. And I'm like, F you, I'm not replying to your text because I'm as egotistical as you are.
Totally.
Yeah. So, so that's kind of a crazy thing.
So how did you end up actually leaving Haro this round?
It was a unique thing. I mean, long story short is Joe Hawk and I just didn't see eye to eye on a couple things. And part of it was my fault. So I'm not going to say I was the perfect employee because I wasn't. I dance, work, sing, whatever to the beat of my own drum. I always have. And sometimes that comes with results and sometimes it doesn't. And I think it's like all of us. But I've also been in the game long enough to know what works and doesn't work. And I know to plan in advance just enough, but also know that
got to keep it loose.
We may have to call an audible, right? And so it basically peaked. You know, sales were up, the numbers came back up, the parts and accessories were up. We had a race program again. I brought in money. On my side, I felt like I ticked off the boxes, so I felt like I was owed or earned a little bit of freedom. And Joe didn't see it like that. And I understand. He's the boss, man. Like, that was cool. And one day I was in Taiwan and he rubbed me up the wrong way. And I felt like I was on a high and I could do no wrong. And I quit. You know, in the middle of the Taipei trade show, I quit and wrote him an email. And I just said, I'm not going to do it. I can't handle this anymore. And that was welcoming to him. I think, you know, at the time, because the friction had gotten so high and
something had to burst.
And I just did. And I remember calling, you know, Sherry and just saying, hey, and I just quit my job. And she's like, you're an idiot. What are you doing? I'm like, I'll find something else. I'm good. You know, again, full of ego and spite and hate and stuff like that. And dude, it wasn't like that.
I think that's, I'll break up with this chick. There'll be so many hot chicks lining up. Then you're like, oh, wait a second.
So it was like it was stupid, but I call it, you know, it's the best and worst sort of period of my life. Yeah.
So between now and then, you had a handful of gigs in the industry.
Yeah.
Probably nothing where there's anything substantial enough to go into detail about.
I never found a home, dude. And that was the crazy thing is I never really found a home. I went to Alienation for a year. I don't even know. People even know Alienations are parts and stuff like that. Yeah. So I went there for a year. Zach is a good dude. Zach Taylor. He's awesome. The owner.
He sold it, right?
He ended up selling it, but he's still representing it.
Okay.
So he sold it to a huge distributor. Wise move on his part because now he's got even more horsepower.
Good for him.
But he's a good dude. But I mean, it's a small brand. You can only do what you can do. And if the dealers or distributors don't pay, guess what? You're not getting paid. And Zach always did the honorable thing. But the fact is, you know, it just came a little too stressful. And
I understand that.
And at that point, that lasted for maybe a year. But going back to the owners of Haro, which a lot of people don't know is Kenda Tire.
Yeah.
And then their parent company, Americana something. But I hit up Jimmy Yang and said, hey, you know, I'm kind of lost, man. You know, and I could always be honest with Jimmy.
He's one of the high ups at...
He's the guy.
Okay.
The guy, Jimmy Yang. And he's nice enough to always return emails and stuff. We're on a great level, and I respect the hell out of that guy. Taiwanese guy, yeah.
Real name probably isn't Jimmy?
Oh, no, probably not. But he's been Jimmy for the better part of, I'd say, 40 years or something. So he is Jimmy now. So he's Jimmy. Yeah. But a good dude. Had never did me wrong, never did stuff like that. But fact is I called him up and said I was lost and I needed a home. And dude, they hired me right away to do Kenda. And I did Kenda BMX and I started a program and I was there for 2.5 years. And I know this for a fact that sales went up 22% 3 years in a row. And I, again, thought I was doing great. And, you know, I was told that some dude in Europe signed $1 million contract for a pro cycling team that couldn't run the tires because Kenda didn't make the correct tire. And there's no way getting out of the contract. So people had to be cut. and I was one of the guys, and I was just like, holy crap, like this is...
Was that just straight up out of nowhere? Shit's going well, and all of a sudden...
Yeah, and they're like, oh, we don't think we're going to do this, and we're going to wait. And I'm like, and I just, again, pushed the envelope. Well, if you're going to wait, then I'm going to go out and see what's going on. Well, we think you should probably do that. And I was like, damn it. Like, okay, so let's do that.
You're supposed to come back and say, okay, we'll make this right.
And so 2 kids at the time, right? A fresh one and a 5-year-old, and no job for 5 months. Live in this huge house and 2 car payments, and that period took years off my life, man.
Yeah. So then fast forward to recently, you were doing some stuff with USA BMX, and more recently you have a new job at USA Cycling, which is the governing body overseeing the USA's efforts in the Olympics, which is now freestyle. Did I explain that right? That's a lot of words.
Okay, BMX Programs Manager. That's the title. Right?
So, your title is BMX Programs Manager at USA Cycling.
Yes.
What does that entail? What's the description?
That basically entails, for lack of better terms, is overseeing every kind of last little nook and cranny, non-coach or performance related, because that's Jamie's gig, and we can go into that later, but for everything to do with the Olympic programs for BMX race and freestyle. So that's 4 teams. There's a male team and a female team times 2, right? And then below that, we'll have this thing called the Academy, which is basically grooming for 2024.
Nice.
Right.
Is that starting soon?
Yeah, that's, we're planning it now.
And there's funding for that, so you'll actually be able to work with the guys and...
Right. So let's just say there's what's her little name? Bless her heart.
Daniel Dares.
No. I hope he listens to this. Jessie Gregory.
Yeah.
She's 17. She's good on a bike. She clearly has skills. She jumps these huge monster energy, dirt jump stuff at the supercrosses and stuff like that, but can use a little bit of refining. We've got the budget now to test her and help her, and then maybe she'll work out and maybe she won't. But the fact is, so
there finally is a program in place for developmental.
Yeah.
Which is huge.
Yeah. And both race and freestyle.
Nice.
Yeah.
What, I guess...
There's a lot more to it, but there's stuff that no one will care here.
A big part of
spreadsheets and logistics.
A big part of all of this is there is actually a skate park coming.
There is.
So tell us about it.
So we acquired, is that the proper way to say it? The park that Feast or Hurricane or the World UCI used in Edmonton, Canada, that round. We bought that, and it's soon going to be on its way down to Chula Vista, and we're going to build it up and then add a little bit more to it to make it more current, because you buy what they have, and the inventory they had was great bones, and but we need to add a few things just to make it what we want truly. So over the winter, we're going to be doing that. So we're going to have our own course to train on, and if we want to throw events, we can throw events. If we want, there's the World Beach Games that people are talking about. They're talking about renting it out. Maybe they'll use it, but the fact is it's a true Feast course, and it's what the same bones and the same feel and the same weight and the same radiuses that is used at the World Cups. So we wanted to give our guys the same exact thing. So instead of going out and making something, we thought, you know what, let's just put in a bid in to buy that one and put it up in Chula Vista, and we're going to be housing athletes there. For people that know, Chula Vista they have apartments and cafeterias and weight rooms and mental wellness centers and therapy for actual physical therapy, and every last little thing that you need there, it's there. So someone could literally, they wouldn't want to because you'd go bored, but someone could live there for however long they wanted to, and everything is taken care of.
So who's that going to be open to as far as athletes? Who will have the ability to say, fuck it, I want to move to Chula? Any
funded athlete right now is supported in one way or another. So we've got gold, silver, and bronze levels, and the criteria has not been announced yet. But basically, if you in 1 year have earned that criteria, you've met that criteria in 2018, then in 2019, all that plus some financial assistance to help you out is given to you to help out, right? And then above and beyond that, if there's maybe some sort of discretionary deal, example, Dennis Anderson is local. Maybe he's not on the funded team, but he's local, and he wants to come and train for a day to see if this is really his bag or whatever. Then we can pay out of pocket to have him as a guest on site and to ride. Or if there's specific coaches or whatever, you just want to, come up and we're going to go and play around on the course and stuff like that and cruise around, then we can do random little things like that. But mostly it's going to be really isolated for, that USA Cycling funded program and the riders that qualified in that funded program.
So who is actually kind of building the layout? I understand the bones are there, but who's going to actually kind of design this park?
Well, we've got someone that's designing it, and then because we're, I don't want to say equal opportunity, like
you got to have rider input on that.
That's it. So we're going to put it to the team. So we're going to build 3 courses, design 3 courses in a 3D sort of, format, and then we're going to throw it out to the team, and majority wins. Because you have to remember, we can change this at will too. So while it's not easy, we can, because it's a feast course. It's a big erector set. So probably people don't even know what erector sets are, huh?
People probably hear erect and just think some dirty shit.
What? Yeah, that's horrible.
What a terrible.
You can take it down and build it really easy because it's all nuts and bolts. And
do you have to hire a crew when you want to change anything?
Yeah.
No, but when you want to change anything, if you want to, or is this something that maybe you guys can kind of,
I'll be able to answer that in February when it's fully assembled and ready to go. But I know to tear it down would be kind of easy.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's going to be pretty tough because those radiuses for a takeoff.
Radii.
Ooh, sorry.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. I never went to college.
I quit.
Oh, that's and look at you. You've struck a gold here.
Oh, yeah. I have a podcast.
But I think they're pretty heavy, so I think we need 4 people to carry them. And, I would have a better idea, but I know to tear down like a majority of it, like there are crew to build it. We have 4 people coming in from France and like groundskeepers and forklifts and local, labor.
Is this indoor or outdoor?
It'll be outdoor.
Okay. Do you have any strong feelings about that?
That's all we have to work with. Sure.
That's a good reason. How about foam, resi, and all that nonsense?
It'll be included in a separate facility or a separate area on the same plot of land.
So will that be separate ramps? All the feast course will stay as one course.
Correct.
And this, in addition to this, you'll also be getting like a foam and resi setup.
As of today, yes.
Foam, resi, quarter resi, spine resi, everything, or
I think it's gonna be limited.
Okay.
I mean, I think foam is gonna be just box foam. And then resi, I think we're fairly limited in what we can do because there's only so much money this year to get stuff done. We are going to have a full training facility, but I don't think we're going to be able to check every box.
Yeah. Well, I mean, still, that's a huge
That's
step.
massive.
Huge
it's
step.
massive.
I personally have heard people talk about this. I've been to a handful of USA Cycling meetings and whatnot. I figured there was no chance it was going to happen before 2020. So all this happening so quick is fantastic.
Well, our current president, and then my boss Scott, and then
Scott Schizophren.
That's
is that how you say his last name?
No, I don't really. That's funny because he's one of the honestly, this is not blowing smoke up his ass. He's one of the raddest bosses I've ever had in my life because he's like, I'm gonna give you enough, rope to hang yourself, but I cannot tell you how to say his last name. It's a really unique last name, and it's something Pon, like sits a pond or something like that. So anyway.
Scott Works.
But yeah, not Scott Works. Scott
Works. Yeah.
But yeah, no, they all busted their asses to go and get that money to make it happen. And it's not a small sum.
So when do you think this facility will be rideable?
I'm hoping in the month of February.
Wow. So very soon.
Yeah. Scott's very direct when he says something, and he straight up said, I want riders riding in winter. So we're pushing it, but
works for me.
Yeah.
Have you gotten any commitments from any of the riders that they want to move out?
I mean, yes and no. People like Brian Fox, who, again, he may not be on that funded list essentially, but he's got some talent, so we would welcome him out. But are we going to put him in a house or in an apartment, stuff like that? That costs a lot of money to do that, so that would be kind of up to him. But then you have someone like Hannah Roberts, who is so far kind of ahead of the curve by way of, so let's say, tricks, but can use maybe some other little things that the training center could use by way of fitness, cardio, whatever like that. And she's been very vocal about, upping her game in that area and cardio. So yeah, she'll probably stay out. But I think it would be hard for anyone to live there. Like, it's paradise, don't get me wrong, but it's like I would equate it to living at college year round. Like you don't really need to leave college, right? At all. You have your study hall and your cafeterias and stuff like that. But the social life and the social aspect is kind of rough.
If somebody lives there, can they leave as they please?
Oh, totally. Yeah, okay. Yeah. No, it's not like the Scientology Center where you're, no, it's not like that. You come and go, but you need your own car and then you're in Chula Vista and you're 2 exits away from Mexico. So you can really only go north and, you're a ways away from everything, but Angie and Paris, I think, do it right. They have their own little house kind of, 20 minutes away and they live there and then they come in every day and they do their training and they're going to be able to do their riding and then they go home.
How much pressure do you have on you to, I guess that's probably more on Jamie, but do you have pressure on you to get results?
Yeah, we all do, because, and I'm afraid to say this only because of the backlash that, when I was at USA BMX and then, UCI's gotten and even a little bit of USAC, but of maybe some of the old guard, how they used to, how they've said in the past, like, you're taking the fun out of freestyle and this, that, and the other. And, with included in the Olympics and then, also being so regimented and stuff like that. But the fact is the IOC, the USOC, not the IOC, the USOC, which is the US version of the Olympic Committee, and USA Cycling, their job is to get medals.
Yeah.
That's their job. And if they're not getting medals, then they're going to change something around until they get medals. And the fact is I fit into that portion of things that could be changed around. Jamie as well. But Jamie busts his ass and he's proven to be, a leader that goes out and gets medals. He's in one of the top ranges from USA Cycling to go out and get gold, silver, bronze, whatever when it comes time. So I'm under a great leader. So that takes a little bit of pressure off of me because I just follow his lead and I do what he says. And then I come in and go, hey, Jamie, I think this looks better. I think we should do this, or I don't think we should do that because of my team manager experience. And he trusts me because he was a rider under me back 100 years ago. So he knows I can do the job in that aspect. But to answer your question, yeah, man, I can be replaced. Yeah. Absolutely. And I don't go to sleep worrying about that, but come May 2020 through the end of the Olympics, I don't think there's going to be many nights that I sleep,
Who are some of the riders you see a lot of potential in as far as winning a medal at these Olympics? Who's the USA Cycling behind as far as like these are the ones that we really see making us look handsome?
Well, I think that's kind of hard to say in direct because we're so far out, I think the Olympics were tomorrow, I think we'd have a really big problem on our hands, with women because you have Paris, who is just on this trajectory of up. You have Angie, who is so good and naturally talented that when she adds in a little bit of seriousness, which she's already done, starting with this off season, she's going to be, scary by way of results, good results. And then you have Hannah, who has the skill, but now she's taken her cardio more serious. So essentially we have 2 spots at the Olympics that we're allowed at the best, right? And with women, we have 3 women now that can go out and place top 3 at any given contest. That's a problem. It's a great problem, but that is a problem, right? And then you go over to men, and our talent pool is so deep now that, this is going to be, gnarly. You've got the question mark, which I call Dennis Anderson, who is an amazing talent and has proven he can go out and do it, right? But does he want to do it? I know it's a huge departure from what he does his everyday life. Dennis is going to be, I don't know his true numbers, but I'm guessing Dennis is $150,000, $200,000 guy with or without the Olympics for the next.
It's more.
Okay, even more. That. Okay, so even better. So let's just say, that, but if Dennis does the Olympics, it's not going to hurt him. If he doesn't do the Olympics, he's still going to be, doing great money in BMX for, how old is he, 27?
27, 28, I think.
Yeah, so what does he have, 6 years left? Ish?
Oh, and
5 years?
He can grab, navigate that into something else too if he so chooses.
Probably.
He'll be, and he's
Let's say BMX, 5 years?
Look at Nyquist. Why couldn't Dennis do what Nyquist is doing?
Okay, even better. So that's my point. So then you got that, but then you have like, okay, are you going to ignore Nick Bruce? No, the dude he's a specimen. The guy is well trained. He's got all the tricks.
He's a vegan?
He's vegan that I learned in China. I didn't know that. And then, and then you have, the Colton Walkers out there who's like, he's really good, but why did he have a bad year? Is that something that USA Cycling can come in and help with by way of, mental or physical, or will this park help him out?
I think it might help with Colton if you could send somebody just to beat the shit out of him.
Just once a week
just
or
beat
what?
Beat the shit out of him. Be like, look, you're blowing it. How are we doing on time?
We're fine. They can wait.
Good. So, what do you think of Justin Dowell? So that kid just came and he was kind of the unthinkable.
He was the next guy. So I think Justin's amazing. And I think when he gets a little older, I think he's going to get better. I think right now he's doing what he does. Like one thing that this is Justin Dowell. He goes out and practices and does his full runs with zero tricks. And I'm just going, and I looked at him and I'm like, you going to trick anything? Are you just not feeling it? Because remember, he had that rough weekend before, right, in China. And I went, are you going to trick anything, dude? Or he goes, oh, yeah, no, I have my tricks dialed. I just go out and do my runs, and then I'll do my tricks, actually in the comp. And I said, you don't want to practice at all? Like, what if? He goes, no, my tricks are dialed. I don't have to do that. Okay. In my head, I'm like, holy crap, this kid's 18. He's screwing up. He's not even practicing, like, whatever. He did his full runs at speed, but he did no tricks. Goes out, boom, banger. And there's different levels of bangers, right? But for Justin, that's what he did, and he qualified pretty good. And then he went and won the world championships, all off of his confidence, right? I think he's going to realize when he becomes 19, 20, 21, 22 that that's not going to work every single time. So I think Justin's going to eventually get better and better as he goes, and he becomes a little more. And he hasn't really had to deal with sponsors too much, so he's fairly naive there. I don't think he's ever been kind of done wrong by a sponsor. So I think that's going to be.
I don't think he's been done right either. I think it can help somebody's confidence a lot when somebody wants to get behind him and say, "Hey,
totally,
you're going to be okay."
Yeah, and I don't think he has that. And I think USA Cycling is probably one of the first companies, I should say, or entities that has really gotten behind him to that. I mean, maybe I'm wrong there from coming in so new, but I mean, I met him at China last year, and from China last year to China this year, he was a completely different person, but he was still sponsorless.
Yeah. I mean, he has a deal with Monster that gets his plane tickets and stuff.
Yeah. What is that? Probably what do they offer him? 10 grand in travel or
maybe
something?
10, 15. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but like, it's okay. But
it's the Army too. Like, it's not even the pro team.
Yeah, but the people don't get on the pro team anymore.
Oh, really?
That's just not really. I mean, if you look at it, the one guy that's gotten on the pro team is Colton Walker, and that's because he literally won everything you could win.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard.
Kind of forced. Huh.
Like Brian Fox, I guess, is at a weird crossroads right now. Like, I don't know what he's doing next year, but I think his Army thing is like done, and I don't know if I don't know.
So there's no age limitations or anything with Army?
No.
Oh,
no.
Okay. I thought there was.
There used to be, I guess, but there's not anymore.
I got you.
And it's a great program, honestly, but I think it's just hard because I don't know if they really have a spot for guys that outgrow it.
Yeah.
You look at Justin Dowell, and I mean, he's the world champion and whatnot, and to kind of still have him on your developmental program is like, what the hell are you developing him to be?
Right, exactly. No, I think Justin. I think that we haven't even seen the best of him. I firmly believe in that. And then you kind of go to Brian Fox, who's a guy who has all the tricks, but I think he could use some mental strength and and a lot of cardio. And then Daniel Sandoval and that dude's a machine. He's really good. I like him as a person. His honesty. We were talking about him beforehand. He's Jeremy Malott. I mean, is that Malott?
Yeah, it's Malott. Everybody says it wrong.
Yeah, Malott.
The announcers say it wrong.
Okay,
yeah.
So Malott, right? Okay, because I'm going to blame that on you. So you say Malott, so it's Malott.
I say it correctly.
Okay.
Yeah.
You say everything correctly.
Thank you.
But I mean, that dude, he's been riding for 3 years.
I know, he's incredible.
And I mean, I didn't know anything about him. I just thought he was just this freakishly looking tattooed dude who just kind of had a kid. But no, he's engaged. He had a kid. He, he's got some crazy tattoos. Every single one of them has a meaning. His dad brought him back to life after a motorcycle accident. Like, he used to own a scooter company. And
Have you met his dad?
No. Is he a nice guy?
Awesome.
Yeah, he follows me on Instagram. I didn't even know. I'm like, God, that name looks familiar. And then
awesome guy.
But dude, that guy's potential, like, if he's only been riding for 3 years and he's this good now, I mean, is he still going up? Like, that's a huge question mark for me. Because if so, then
he's gotten this good riding that concrete park. It's an incredibly good concrete park. But I think he's the type of guy, if you could buckle him down in the training facility,
Yeah.
and he's riding alone in a concrete park.
Right.
Buckle him down in the training facility, riding with Sandoval or Colton Walker every day. I think some crazy shit could happen.
I agree with that. So he's already said, I mean, what you speaking of, he's already said, like, I'd love to come out for a week at a time. I'm like, sounds great, because he lives, what, 3.5 hours away or 3 hours away?
I don't know.
Yeah,
but
that's about 3 hours away.
that's not bad. His dad's in L.A., I think.
Oh.
Outskirts of L.A., so he's out here a lot anyway doing family stuff, so it kind of makes sense for him.
Yeah. Well, I think he'll benefit from it. But, I mean, there's just so many. I mean, I know I'm leaving someone out. Who am I leaving out? I mean, Nyquist is still in the game. I mean, until he says he wants to go away. But he's even going to come stay at the training facility for, a couple weeks at a time, maybe more, and then do female camps out there, to train the girls, and get their tricks up and going. And so
it's an open book.
I mean, yeah, dude, I just think I think we have I don't think there's a problem with the amount of talent. I think it's going to be tough distinguishing, who goes. And we have a criteria that's written. It's going to be released here soon because, again, equal opportunity. We don't want people to go, Nyquist went out there and got all the points, but then we're going to go, oh, yeah, Dennis, let's take you. Like, our criteria is going to be very black and white.
To where whoever gets the points is the guy that's going.
That's it.
That's what it should be.
And that's it. And it's written well. Like, again, this is where Jamie's experience comes in, is where it's written well enough to where we've ran it through every last possibility. And the person, if we don't get the top spot, that deserves to go is the person that deserves to go. It's not going to be, well, this guy's come on, really hot later. Well, what? These other guys have busted their ass for a year and a half to get this, so.
I like that.
Yeah.
And I think there might
no
be
favoritism is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. That makes sense to me. I know you got places to be, so I need you to tell me who your favorite rider is of all time.
Colin McKay.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
He's right behind you. That's him right there.
That's not Colin McKay.
That's Colin McKay.
That is not Colin McKay.
I bet you $100 that is Colin McKay.
I know it's Colin McKay. I'm just giving you shit.
Oh, God. You just made me. Probably Colin McKay. Yeah, I'd say, Dave was great to watch. Ryan is near and dear to my heart. Brian Foster is amazing. I love watching Brian Foster on anything. Chris Fox is holy crap.
But you like Colin McKay more than all of them?
Colin McKay, man, just because he's just got this unique style that doesn't look like anyone else.
And to top it off, he's a great guy.
He's a fantastic human.
That's one of the things with Colin. It's just like, I like him so much, and I forget what a good rider he is, and I see him ride, and I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, because he's like,
oh, yeah,
he does all this other stuff, right? And then he actually breaks out the bike and does it.
He does the 1 foot tables with his front foot. Most people do 1 foot tables, they go switch.
Yeah.
He does the 1 foot tables like if he tables to the right, 1 foot tables to the right.
Yeah.
And it's cool. Some guys do them, not many, but like he's one of the guys that still does those. I like that trick a lot.
That is, yeah, his style is second to none as far as I'm concerned. I remember when I went back to Haro, he was one of the first dudes I called. I don't even know if he had a sponsor, actually, if he was sponsorless when I brought him back on.
I think he might have been sponsorless. He was on Diamondback for a minute, but I think it was Diamondback to nothing to Haro.
And I remember I called him and I'm like, hey, dude, we got this deal. And he's just like, huh? And I just said, yeah. And he goes, wow. And I think he questioned, why are you calling me?
You calling me at somebody else's number?
Yeah, and I'm like, no, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, and I'm like, but I'm just being honest with you. We're kind of redoing the brand. We went from these crazy frame designs and we're going to a traditional, and the only frames we have now are premiums, and we're gonna have to repaint you one and put Haro stickers on it. And he's like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And he was super stoked. And Rob Darden at the time too, we put him on. But and then I've always tried to do something with Colin after that. I put him on that Kenda deal when we did with Kenda, and I think there was one other one. I can't remember. Maybe not. But anyway, that guy is just legend status.
Great guy. Tony, I'll let you go be a father. Thank you so much for the time. Win some gold medals and don't get fired.
That's my goal.
How jockey does that sound?
Horrible.
Thanks, Tony.
Okay, bye.
All right, that does it for this week. Big thank you to Tony D for the time. Be sure to follow Tony on Instagram at Tony D. That's not at all spelled like you're expecting. TOE.KNEE.DEE. I guarantee Tony thought he was hilarious when he named his account that. It's not that funny. That does it for this week. Go do a bunch of cool shit, and just remember, it doesn't count if you don't pull the rollback. Have a wonderful week.